The KKK did not exist until Black people successfully escaped the physical chains of chattel slavery. But that doesn't mean that escaping the physical chains of chattel slavery was a failure and that white supremacy won. The KKK was created because white supremacy was losing. Mass incarceration didn't exist as we know it today until the civil rights movement was passed and Black people and everyone who helped us successfully defeated Jim Crow. The creation of mass incarceration did not signify the failure of the defeat of Jim Crow. Mass incarceration came because of the defeat of Jim Crow, but it does not, it does not invalidate the defeat of Jim Crow. When the first woman ran in the Boston Marathon, men physically harassed her all the way to the finish line. But her reaching the finish line and running the marathon in the first place is not invalidated by the backlash to her success. Now we have women of all colors, all nationalities, all religions, and all ages living their grandmother's wildest dreams. And what we are seeing is a backlash. We are seeing a rise in alt-right ideologies. We are seeing a rise in male rage, patriarchal rage. There is a backlash against the career woman. There is a push to return to this trad wife ideal where women were wearing the soft chains of marriage slavery because that's what marriage was originally intended for. But that backlash, this backlash that is happening, this attempted rise at fascism, because it won't take hold. It will not grow roots, I promise you. And that's a whole nother conversation about why it won't. But this rise of alt-right ideology isn't happening because we're losing. It is happening because this is the natural response to progress. Anytime an oppressed group wins a battle, the oppressors wage a war, but the oppressors never win. In World War II, leading up to World War II, the average German citizen was piss poor, broke as hell, because of everything that happened after World War I. They blamed it all on Germany, which really wasn't fair to Germany, to be completely honest with you. It was a whole thing. We won't get into the historical nuances of that.
Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. This is your presenter Ginger Stories and I'm hoping that you're doing fine from wherever you're watching us from. Now, throughout the history, there have been numerous instances where Black unity and success provoked violent white backlash. These events reveal a consistent pattern. Whenever Black people achieved economic prosperity, political power, or social cohesion, white supremacists first responded with extreme measures to dismantle this progress. I'm going to be giving you a couple of things in history that happened that showed that the Black cohesion or the Black unity have always rendered white people in fear. And how do they respond? Some respond violently. And this is not my words. These are words that came from history, something that they don't want most of us to learn. And just recently, somebody sent me an email trying to ask me who is funding my channel because I'm, dividing Black folks and white folks. Well, what I'm trying to say is this channel is always for educational purposes. I've never woke up in the morning to divide anybody. The things that I say, my perspective, are usually backed up by facts. Like I don't just say words, right? In today's video, for example, we're going to talk about why are whites so much afraid of Black excellence or Black unity. And somebody will say that I'm trying to, cause division. Let's talk about the destruction of Black Wall Street in 1921. Was I there? I wasn't there. Let's talk about the Wellington coup, that is 1898. Was I there? Which happened in Carolina? I wasn't there. What happened during the Rosewood Massacre in Florida, 1923? Was I there? I wasn't there. What happened in the Red Summer, 1919? Was I there? I wasn't there. What happened in East Louis Massacre, 1917? Was I there? I wasn't there. What happened in the Move bombing, which happened in 1985 in Philadelphia? Was I there? I wasn't there. So you can't just come and say that I'm spewing hate. Well, all things that I'm saying are fact-based. There is empiricism, there is research which is conducted in regards to the things that I say. So my opinion is this: in as much as you're trying to tell people the truth, I understand not everyone will agree with this, but I won't say much about that. This video will be focusing on why they fear so much black unity or black excellence to the extent that they get enraged and doing all these things. We're going to see the rise of KK. You're all going to be hearing in people's perspective, people who understand their history. So let's watch the video. I'll be back. For those who are watching us for the first time, I'd like to say welcome to the channel. For those subscribers who are coming back to watch my videos, I say thank you so much. And those who are sending me super thanks, those who are donating through my Cash App, buying me a coffee, I highly appreciate. Just know that any form of support you give is highly appreciated. So let's watch the video. I'll be back.
But the average German was poor. The average Jew was thriving. The Holocaust and Nazism was a reaction to Jewish people thriving. But despite the amount of people that suffered and the sheer magnitude of that suffering, that did not invalidate Jewish excellence. All it did was delay the inevitable, which is that Jewish people will continue to thrive and do continue to thrive until this day. You can't confuse the backlash to progress as the continuation of old systems of power. It is the dying of old systems of power, not the birth. Dying and birth often look the very same, and you have to have the discernment to know what you're looking at when you're looking at it. Anytime I see a video of people talking about the rise of fascism and how they're just so disturbed and how we're backsliding, I scroll because it is extremely misleading, and someone who doesn't have a good understanding of history would believe them without asking any questions. It is not a backslide. What is happening right now is not a backslide. It is quite the opposite. This backlash is happening because we are doing the opposite of backsliding. Barack Obama won the presidency. Wasn't old enough to vote for him the first time, but I sure as hell voted for him the second time. Does the presence of Trump mean that there was a backslide? No. The presence of Trump is the very predictable backlash to Obama. But does that invalidate all of the progress we made under Obama? Does that invalidate all of the progress that Barack Obama symbolized? No. White Americans are punishing us with Trump, a decade of Trump, because we move forward. We keep moving forward. When, how do I put this? When a collective as big as humanity pushes forward in their evolutionary tract, there's going to be natural resistance. That does not mean, that natural resistance does not mean that we should despair and give up hope and assume that, oh, well, you know, we're facing an obstacle. I guess we should just stop. I guess this means we have to turn around and go back. I feel like young people in this generation don't know what it is to fight for what is right and to move forward regardless and to have hope, because hope is their only option. Luckily, the majority of us who were born in the 80s and later have never had to have a whole lot of hope, because we were born in relative peacetime. We weren't old enough to really face the brunt of the AIDS epidemic or the drugs epidemic in the 80s or the violence. What is happening right now is par for the course, and based on pretty much every single era of human history, we won't lose if we keep moving forward. They will. They always lose. Elon Musk is having a worse year in the first 3 months of 2025 than Drake had in all of 2024. What is happening with Musk and Trump? The amount of people who hate them, viscerally hate them. These town halls, these red hat Republicans even want to cut their fucking throats. That is not what it looks like when you're winning. What it looks like when you're winning is when a bunch of people are trying to hold you back from the finish line, which is us. That is us. Women are outpacing men in every fucking category other than murder and violent crime. Of course they're going to be mad. Of course they're going to try to get you to go back to being their slaves. I mean, wives. I mean, brood mares. This is what it looks like when you're winning. When you're in class and another kid is cheating off of your test, are they cheating off of you because you're stupid? Or are they doing the wrong thing because you're smart and they're trying to ride your coattails? If you were running a race in track and field and the person behind you tried to trip you up, are they tripping you up because you're losing? Or are they tripping you up because you're winning? I just think we need to maintain some perspective and zoom out, look at this from a high level, and understand that people don't try to sabotage losers, because losers sabotage themselves. People try to sabotage winners, and the saboteur does not invalidate the victor. They always invalidate themselves in the long run. And let me just say this also. When you have a group of people who can only ever win if they rig the game, when you have a group of people who can only feel good about themselves when they're standing on top of other people, you already have them beat. You just don't know it yet. They do. They know it. Like Cat Williams said, liars act weird around you because they know the lie they told. You might not know it, but they know it. Just act like you know something, man. Like, we're on the right track. We're not backsliding into fucking fascism. Like, relax. We are doing exactly what we were always meant to be doing, which is moving forward and perpetuating the evolution of humanity for our children and our children's children and our descendants on down the line. If we were losing, they wouldn't be so worried about entrenching the rigged system. This system's about to fall. You mark my words.
Black people are going to make it, y'all. Earlier this week, I preemptively said in one of my videos that Black people were going to survive, that we were going to make it, that we were going to thrive, no matter what this administration throws out. Like, I just knew it down in my shondo, but this video right here gave me the historic context that I needed for that feeling, for that knowing that I had. Mel reminds us that one of the most vitriolic hate groups ever to be formed only formed after Black people achieved our physical liberation, after the massive human trafficking event known as enslavement. And then Reconstruction happened. Black folks who at one point weren't allowed to read educated themselves and each other, started running for offices, and started to win. And of course that immediately scared the bigots, who instead of fighting fair fights have to do what they do: instill violence, instill fear, chase people away, cheat wherever possible. Not much has changed. If we look a little later in history, we see the same playbook after the Civil Rights Act. And a lot of the hateful legislation that folks had to live with after the Civil Rights Act came in direct response to our people getting free of Jim Crow. The same Jim Crow that certain folks with the tiny mustache man learned and picked up from the United States and took back over to Europe and terrorized so many people. The hateful playbook, y'all. It's always the same. So that's why a lot of us aren't surprised at the rollback of segregation, the restriction of education, the removal of our history from being taught in school, the erasure of our heroes from government websites. We're not surprised, but we're also not upset. A lot of us know that when they start acting like that, they're not showing any might. They're not showing any strength. What they're showing is cowardice. Because how scared do you have to be to delete heroes of this nation just because they don't look like you? How terrified do you have to be to remove books about natural hair, black love, and black joy because they don't center you? But when you see efforts like that happening, it's a reminder of Black progress, that we've come so far and that we've done so much, and that we will keep going far, and that we will keep doing much. And all their hateful efforts do is just remind us that even if we don't know who we are, they do. So let's act like we know who we are.
Segregation, there's no way I could not jump on here before I jump on a plane to tell y'all about my grandfather. Very dramatically on Sunday morning, he used to say, "Hell you, as far as I can see, integration has been the downfall of the black man." That was his hypothesis. My grandfather used to talk about this for years before he passed. My grandfather was the principal of the black high school in Wiggins, Mississippi. It was called Locker High School. My mom went to school there. I think my grandmother was a teacher there, and my grandfather was the principal. When integration came, he became the vice principal, which was a demotion to the integrated school. But I'll never forget how he used to talk about his school, about Locker High, and how he wished in a lot of ways we would go back to segregation. Because my grandfather would have been 100% down with where we clearly all are as black people. Bring it back, resegregate. But he would put down his paper and he would look me right in the eye and he would say, "Alec, all integration is done. All it has led to was the black community being rotted from the inside out because of 3 reasons. Number 1, them drugs." Except he wouldn't say them drugs or those drugs. He called it that crack. This was during, the crack epidemic and the crack era. He would also go on and on about it. He goes, "You know what else we used to never see back when I was running my school was all these girls laid up pregnant," aka teen pregnancy. Now, y'all don't judge my grandfather. Just listen and don't judge, okay? He was a gentleman of his time. But he would talk about how you never used to see teenage pregnancy ever. It was a very rare occurrence. And number 3, what he would call shiftlessness. My school, young men went into work. They went into the trades. They went into their, occupations. So we got them into the military. There were no young men lying around. And y'all, I remember seeing the yearbook pictures. If I find some, I'm going to share them with y'all. My grandfather was so proud of his school. He used to call it our school. School was clean. It was spotless. There were parents there. Mothers were the ones that decorated for all the homecoming dances, y'all, and they had everything. He was so beloved. He was so respected as the principal of that high school, even the vice principal of the integrated high school, which was a bit of a nightmare thing because he should have been principal of that school, but because Mississippi and racism, they demoted him after integration and made him the vice principal. But that's one of the reasons he would go off and off and off and on about this. I wish so much that he was here today to hear this conversation and to see us as a black community be like, fine, we know our worth. We know how beautiful and magical and creative and influential we are. Segregation, okay, they not gonna do it. They're kind of addicted to us. I don't see white people even letting us have the piece of segregation. Y'all remember his name, Mr. Needham Jones Sr., who won the freaking Congressional Gold Medal because of his work with the Tuskegee Airman. Maybe I can get my sister or y'all's Blade to jump on, because nobody can tell it the way my sister tells it about the way my grandfather used to talk about this.
Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. I hope you are great and you've heard what the sisters have said, right? It's always important that black people stand on business. Really important, because we are getting to send them the message that black people don't want to play. Now, for the longest time in human history, we have seen black people trying to be successful in everything that they're trying to do. But there is always an hindrance. There is always a friction. Why? Because people fear when black people come together. That's why you see in the Willie Lynch's letter, it tried to expose, why they never wanted black people, black man and black woman to come together, because they know there is a powerful spark between them. But I'm not gonna be going into that. My focus is, why do they fear black unity like that? Because from history, looking at the destruction of the Black Wall Street, that is in 1921, the Tulsa Race Massacre, one of the most infamous example is the Tulsa Race Massacre of 1921. Greenwood, a thriving black street in Tulsa, Oklahoma, was home to successful black business, banks, schools, and hospitals, earning its nickname Black Wall Street. Many of its residents were descendants of formerly enslaved people who had built generational wealth despite systemic racism. The site of black prosperity enraged white mobs, using a fabricated accusation of black man assaulting a white woman as a pretext. White supremacists, many of whom were deputized by local authorities, attacked Greenwood. Over 300 black people were murdered. Thousands were left homeless, and the entire district was reduced to ashes. This massacre was not just about racial hatred. It was a deliberate economic attack designed to destroy black financial independence. Also, getting to look at the Wellington coup, that is in 1898, Wellington, North Carolina. In 1898, Wellington, North Carolina was a city where black residents held significant political power, serving in local governments and running successful businesses. Black politicians and news editors such as Alexander Manley were vocal about racial justice. White supremacists, unwilling to tolerate black political success, orchestrated a coup, the only success coup d'etat in U.S. history. They overthrew the legally elected government, massacred black residents, and installed white officials by force. The white-controlled press framed this as race riot rather than a terrorist attack, which allowed the perpetrators to escape consequences. Wellington never recovered as a black political stronghold, and Jim Crow laws further suppressed black political engagement in the South. Right. These are things that happened. Also, the Rosewood Massacre 1923, which happened in Florida. Rosewood, Florida was another prosperous black community that was annihilated due to white rage. Similar to Tulsa, white mob used a false claim that white women had been assaulted by a black man to justify attacking the town. Over the course of the week, white mobs burned homes, lynched residents, and erased Rosewood from the map. Survivors fled and were never compensated for their losses, reinforcing the pattern of economic and social devastation whenever black people built something for themselves. I'm also going to be talking about the Red Summer of 1919. The year 1919 saw one of the most widespread outbreaks of anti-black violence in American history, known as the Red Summer. Across dozens of cities, from Chicago to Washington, D.C., white mobs attacked black communities that had gained economic and political traction after World War I. Black veterans who had fought in the war and returned demanding civil rights were particularly targeted. White mobs, including law enforcement, responded to black self-defense efforts with mass lynchings and destruction of black-owned properties. This wave of racial terrorism was designed to reset white dominance and punish black people for daring to seek equality. I'm also going to be talking about the East St. Louis Massacre, 1917. In 1917, black workers in East Louis, Illinois, were targeted by white laborers who saw them as economic competition. White unions and business owners incited mobs who then carried out one of the most gruesome massacres in U.S. history. Black residents were shot, burned alive, lynched. Estimated suggests that between 100 and 200 black people were murdered. The violence was not just spontaneous racial hatred, it was a calculated effort to ensure that black people remained at the bottom of the economic hierarchy. Also, the big move bombing, that is in 1985, Philadelphia. Fast forward to 1985, and black unity still faced violent suppression. The MOVE organization, a black liberation move group in Philadelphia, was targeted by city officials who were uncomfortable with the racial radical self-sufficiency and anti-government stance. Instead of arresting individual members, Philadelphia police dropped a military-grade bomb on their house. killing 11 people, including children, and destroying an entire neighborhood. The government response to black activism in the case was a clear message: black self-determination will not be tolerated. Talk about the assassination of black leaders 1960s, that is COINTELPRO. During the civil rights and black power movements, the US intelligence agencies waged an all-out war on black leadership through the COINTELPRO program. The FBI, under J. Edgar Hoover, was black unity and empowerment as a direct threat to white supremacy. Leaders like Malcolm X, Martin Luther King Jr., Fred Hampton were targeted, surveilled, and ultimately assassinated or imprisoned. Fred Hampton, in particular, was seen as dangerous because of the ability to unite black, white, and Latino activists in Chicago. The FBI and Chicago police executed him in his sleep in 1969. The systemic elimination of black leaders ensured that revolutionary movements lost momentum before they could create lasting system change. The Atlanta Massacre of 1906. Atlanta black middle class was growing in the early 20th century, and many black entrepreneurs had become successful. However, white resentment exploded in 1906 when false report spread that black men had assaulted white women. White mobs rampaged through the black neighborhoods, killing over 25 people and destroying businesses. The violence had long-term economic impact, discouraging black economic ambition and reinforcing racial segregation. Also, we're going to be talking about the Haitian Revolution, 1791 to 1804, and Western retaliation. One of the most significant examples of black unity and success engaging white elites was the Haitian Revolution, the first successful slave revolt that led to independent black nation. White powers, including France, Britain, and the United States, responded with economic sanctions, invasions, and diplomatic isolation to ensure Haiti remained impoverished. France even forced Haiti to pay reparations to former enslavers, crippling its economy for centuries. This was a global example of how white supremacists seek to punish black independence. Talking about the destruction of African civilization by European colonialism, we won't forget about that. On a large scale, European colonialism systematically destroyed thriving African civilization such as Mali, Songhai, and Zulu Kingdom. The societies had advanced economies, universities, and military structures that threatened European notions of racial superiority. The Berlin Conference of 1884 to 1885 formalized the partition of Africa, ensuring that no independent black power could change European dominance. Colonizers looted resources, dismantled governance structures, and imposed artificial borders to prevent African unity. The psychological and economic effects of colonialism still impact African nations until today. Now, what conclusion can we make out of this? History shows that whenever black people have organized, built wealth, or gained political power, white supremacist forces have reacted with violence, legal suppression, and systemic sabotage. Whether through massacre, assassinations, economic warfare, or colonialism, the goal has always been the same: to prevent black people from achieving sustained power and self-sufficiency. We need to recognize the patterns that they have been using for the longest time. So I don't know what you feel about this presentation, but that's just the truth. So to respond to the people that say that I'm spreading hate, think about it. If I'm the one who wrote that, but it is true. These are things that happen. It's in the records. You could check, you could read your books, you could check your history books. These are things that happened. So I don't understand as to why somebody will come to me and say that I'm spreading hate. These are presented Ginger Stories. I'm hoping you're great from wherever you're watching us from. But until then, I hope to see you in my next video. Peace, love, and harmony. Salute.